Every city has a basement where its secrets go to rot. My job is to make sure they stay filed, numbered, and forgotten. But what happens when the archive starts writing back? My name is Elias, and I've just found a file dated for tomorrow. A crime that hasn't happened yet, with a victim I haven't met. And the most terrifying part? The final report is already written in my own handwriting. They call this place the archive, but to me, it is a paper purgatory. 30 feet below the polished boots of Scotland Yard, I sit in a silence so thick it feels like a physical weight. My lungs are half filled with the dust of the 19th century, dust made of evaporated blood, old soot, and the pulverized remains of 1,000 forgotten lives. I am Elias, the man who ghosts the ghosts. My task is to breathe life back into fading ink. Every day, I take a rotting ledger, a document that has survived fires, floods, and the slow rot of neglect, and I translate its whispers into the sharp, aggressive clacking of this Smith Premier typewriter. People upstairs think history is a straight line. They are wrong. Down here, history is a tangled web of sins, and I am the spider trying to find the center. Every keystroke is a nail in a coffin that won't stay shut. The metal keys are cold, always cold, no matter how hard I work. The green lamp on my desk flickers like a dying eye, casting long, hungry shadows against the endless rows of wooden shelves. Sometimes, I feel like the shelves are leaning in, listening to the secrets I'm forced to repeat. Every name I type is a life extinguished. Every address is a crime scene that has long since been paved over. I am surrounded by screams trapped in paper, and I am the only one who hears them. I've seen it all. The strangulations in Whitechapel, the poisonings in Kensington, the desperate thefts that ended at the end of a rope. I thought my mind had become a fortress, a cold, impenetrable wall of indifference. But the archive is a living thing. It knows when you are vulnerable. It waits until the silence is just right before it strikes. I was moving a stack of files in section 1888, a section reserved for the nameless and the truly forgotten, when I saw it. A box that didn't belong. It was sitting on a shelf that had been empty for decades. It wasn't the usual gray cardboard, yellowed and brittle at the edges. No, this box was black, polished, and free of the ubiquitous dust that blankets everything else. It felt unnatural, like a void in the middle of a crowded room. My hands shook as I reached for it. The air around the box felt 10 degrees colder, a localized winter in the middle of a London summer. I opened it, expecting more rot, more faded ink. Instead, I found a single folder, white as a fresh shroud. No fingerprints. No official stamps. Just a single label that made my blood turn to slush. Pending, February 15th, 1934. Tomorrow. The folder was dated tomorrow. I sat back down at my desk, the green light reflecting off the pristine paper. The ink was so fresh I could smell it, a sharp, chemical scent that cut through the ancient dust of the cellar. I didn't want to open it. Every instinct I had, honed by 10 years of digging through the dead, told me to burn that folder and never look back. But the archive doesn't allow for cowardice. I turned the first page. It was a standard incident report, but written with a level of detail that felt voyeuristic. Victim, Elizabeth Rose. Age, 24. Profession, florist. It described her route home. It described the color of her dress, a pale lavender. It described the exact moment her heart would stop beating in Black Cat Alley. I looked at the wall clock. The pendulum swung back and forth, slicing the seconds like a guillotine. I had 24 hours. 24 hours to decide if I was a recorder of history, or its master. I began to search for her. Not in the world of the living, but in my own world. I dug through the index cards, my fingers flying through the names. Rose. Rose. Elizabeth. I found a file from 20 years ago. A missing person case. A child. It was her. And attached to that file was a witness statement from a man who claimed he had seen her future. He was described as a madman in a gray coat. My breath caught in my throat. I looked at the hook behind my door. My gray gabardine coat was hanging there, swaying slightly in a draft I couldn't feel. I couldn't stay in the vault. The silence was no longer a comfort, it was a mocking laugh. I climbed the stairs, my knees aching with every step, a phantom pain I couldn't explain. I stepped out into the London night, and for the first time, the fog felt like a conspiracy. I found her shop. The Rose Garden. She was there, just as the report said. a pale lavender dress visible through the glass. She was laughing, pinning a boutonniere onto a customer's lapel. She looked so light, so disconnected from the heavy, ink-stained fate I held in my pocket. I spent the day following her. I became the very thing I spent my life documenting, a shadow, a stalker, a ghost in a gray coat. I watched her eat lunch. I watched her buy a newspaper. I watched her talk to a constable, the very same constable whose name would be on her death certificate tomorrow. The irony was a bitter pill. I tried to speak to her once. I walked up to the counter, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. But when she looked at me, with those bright, unsuspecting eyes, the words died in my throat. How do you tell someone that you've already typed the report of their murder? I walked away, my right leg dragging slightly. A cramp, I told myself. Just a cramp from the cold of the archive. The hour approached. 11 p.m. Black Cat Alley was a throat of brick and shadow, waiting to swallow the light. I took my position in the doorway of an old warehouse. The rain began to fall, not a cleansing rain, but a cold, greasy London drizzle that turned the soot on the walls into black tears. I saw her. The lavender dress was a faint smudge of color in the dark. She was walking quickly, her heels clicking against the stones. Then, I heard it. The other set of footsteps. Shuffling. Uneven. A rhythmic dragging sound that mirrored my own heartbeat. From the other end of the alley, he emerged. The man in gray. He was tall, his face a cavern of shadows under his fedora. In the dim gaslight, I saw the flash of a blade, a long, thin needle of steel. My mind fractured. This was the moment. The ink was becoming blood. I lunged. I didn't yell. I didn't think. I just threw my entire weight into the silhouette. We collided with a sickening thud. He was heavy, solid, but he smelled of the same dust I lived in. We thrashed in the mud, our breaths misting in the freezing air. I grabbed his throat, my fingers digging into cold, wrinkled skin. I saw his eyes. They weren't the eyes of a killer. They were the eyes of a man who had lost everything. I pushed him back with a roar of pure, desperate terror. His head hit the stone curb. A sound like a dry branch snapping. Silence followed, louder than the rain. I stood over him, my chest heaving. Elizabeth was gone, her screens fading into the fog of Fleet Street. I had done it. I had edited the world. I knelt down to see the face of the man I had killed to save her. I pulled back the hat. It wasn't just a resemblance. It was a mirror. The same nose. The same thin, white scar above the left eyebrow, a scar I got when I was 7 years old. But he was old. His hair was a thin silver mist, his skin like parchment left too close to the fire. I reached into his pocket and found a watch. And a folder. A black folder. I opened it. It was a report, written in my own hand, dated 20 years into the future. It described a man in a gray coat, me, who would eventually go mad with the guilt of a life he couldn't remember saving. A man who would spend 2 decades searching for a way to return to this very night to stop the cycle. I looked at my hands. They were stained with the ink of my own life. I am back at my desk now. My leg is ruined from the fall, a permanent limp that marks me. I am typing the report for tomorrow. I am typing the report for the man I will become. I am the scribe of silent sins, and my greatest sin was thinking I could escape the archive. The ink is dry,